My name is Nisha. I have been married for 12 years, and for a few months my husband started looking at me like he did not fully know who I was anymore. He was not angry. He was not shouting. He was just distant, quiet in a way that felt wrong. And slowly I started realizing that people around us, family members who had known me for over a decade, were treating me differently too. Something was going around, a story. And the story was that I was cheating on my husband while he worked long hours to take care of us. The problem was, none of it was true. What I did not know yet was that this story had a source, one person, someone inside the family, someone who had taken a normal afternoon and turned it into something else entirely, and then made sure the right people heard it. When I finally found out who it was and why they did it, I was not prepared for how calculated it had all been. This is what happened. My name is Nisha, and for 12 years, I believed my marriage was one of the most stable things in my life. Amit and I met when we were both 23. We were introduced through a common family friend, and within 2 years, we got married. We were not the kind of couple who showed off our relationship or posted everything on social media. We were quiet. We were steady. We had built a simple life together, and that simplicity was something I was proud of. Amit worked long hours. He was in logistics, managing supply chains for a mid-sized company in the city. His work required him to be away from home sometimes from 8 in the morning until 9 or 10 at night. I worked too, part-time from home as a content editor for a small online publishing company. We did not have children yet. We were still figuring out the right time for that. Our home was calm. We cooked together on weekends. We visited family on festivals. We argued sometimes, like every couple does, but nothing serious, nothing that felt like it could not be fixed with a good conversation and a cup of tea. I say all of this because I want you to understand what I had before everything fell apart. Amit's younger sister, Ritu, had always been a presence in our lives. She was 4 years younger than Amit and had been close to him growing up. When we got married, I made a real effort to build a relationship with her. I invited her over. I included her in things. I asked for her opinions when we were redecorating the flat. I thought we were doing okay, but Ritu was never fully warm with me. Not cold either, just a little distant. I told myself that was normal. Not everyone becomes best friends with their sister-in-law. I did not push it. What I did not notice at first was that Ritu had started paying very close attention to my life. It began with small things. She would ask Amit questions about my schedule, where I was going, who I was meeting. At first, it seemed like normal conversation. Then she started showing up at family gatherings with comments that felt slightly off. "Nisha, you seem very tired lately. Are you sleeping well?" She asked me once, in front of Amit's mother, with a kind of smile that did not match her eyes. "I'm fine," I said, "just busy with work." She nodded slowly, like she did not quite believe me. I noticed it, but I let it go. A few months after that, things started to shift. Amit came home one evening quieter than usual. He sat down at the dinner table and barely spoke during the meal. I asked him what was wrong and he said nothing, just tired. But it was not the kind of tired I recognized. It was something else. This went on for a few days. Then one night I asked him directly, "Amit, something is bothering you. Please just tell me." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "My cousin Rajan said something to me today. About you." I asked him what Rajan had said. Amit rubbed the back of his neck. He looked uncomfortable. He said he had heard that you were spending a lot of time with someone, a man, while I am at work. I stared at him. "What?" "I am not saying I believe it," Amit said quickly. "I just wanted to tell you, because I thought you should know people are talking." "Who is talking? Who is this man I am supposedly spending time with?" He did not have a clear answer. Rajan had not given him a name, just said that he had heard something, that people were saying things. I felt a very specific kind of anger in that moment, the kind that starts cold and still before it gets hot. I told Amit that this was not true, that I did not know what Rajan was talking about, and that whoever had told him this had made it up. Amit said he believed me, but something had changed in the room. Something small and hard had been placed between us, and I could feel it even as we talked. Over the following weeks, I started picking up on things I had missed before. An uncle who had always been warm with me was suddenly formal and distant. Amit's mother, who usually called me on random weekdays just to chat, had gone quiet. When I attended a family birthday, I noticed two of Amit's cousins stop talking as I walked over to them. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Then I thought maybe I had done something to offend someone without realizing. I went over conversations in my head, trying to find the moment I had said the wrong thing. But then something happened that made it impossible to ignore. We went to Amit's parents' house for a Sunday lunch. Ritu was there. Most of the family was there. It was a normal afternoon, or it looked like one. But throughout the lunch I kept catching looks, not long stares. Just glances, the kind people give when they know something you do not know they know. After lunch, I went to the kitchen to help clean up. Ritu was already there. We worked next to each other without talking much. Then she said, in a voice that was almost casual, "You should be careful, Nisha. People talk, and in this family, once people start talking, it is very hard to stop them." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. "I am just saying. Amit works so much. You are alone a lot. People notice things. People imagine things. You know how it is." She turned back to the dishes. I stood there with a plate in my hand and felt something cold settle in my chest, because the way she said it was not like a warning from someone who cared about me. It was said the way you say something when you already know the ending of a story, and you are watching the other person try to find their way through the middle of it. I did not say anything else to her that afternoon, but I did not forget what she said. That night, after we got home, I asked Amit if he had heard anything more. He said no, but he also said that his father had asked him, quietly, at some point during the afternoon, whether everything at home was okay, whether Amit was happy. His father had never asked him that before. Something was happening. I did not know the full shape of it yet, but I was starting to understand that the rumors Rajan had mentioned were not just a random misunderstanding. Someone was saying things, and they were saying them carefully, in the right ears, at the right moments. I just did not know yet who it was, or why. After that Sunday lunch, I could not stop thinking about what Ritu had said to me in the kitchen. People notice things. People imagine things. It kept coming back to me. The way she said it, the tone, the small smile after. I am not someone who jumps to conclusions. I try to be fair. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but something about that moment felt wrong in a way I could not explain away. I decided to pay more attention. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing a pattern. Every time a new family member became distant with me, I could trace it back to a time when Ritu had recently spoken to them. Her cousin Meena, who had always been friendly, stopped replying to my messages around the same time she had lunch with Ritu. Amit's aunt, who lived 2 streets away from us, suddenly became cold during a temple visit, which was the week after Ritu had spent a weekend at her house. I did not have proof of anything, not yet, but the pattern was there. Meanwhile, things between Amit and me were getting harder. He was not accusing me of anything. He was not fighting with me. It was more subtle than that, and in some ways that made it worse. He would come home and be quiet. He would look at his phone more than usual. Sometimes I would catch him looking at me in a way that he quickly changed when he realized I had noticed. One evening I sat down next to him and asked him directly if he was having doubts about me. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I don't want to have doubts, Nisha." "That is not the same as saying you don't have them," I said. He put his phone down. He looked tired. Some things have been said, and I keep trying to dismiss them. But when I hear the same thing from more than one person, it becomes hard to just ignore. What exactly are people saying, Amit? Give me the details. I deserve to know. He told me then, more than he had shared before. The story that was going around was specific. It was not just a vague rumor about me being friendly with some man. It had details. There was apparently a man, someone I had reportedly known before my marriage, who had reconnected with me. People were saying I met him during the afternoons when Amit was at work. Someone had apparently mentioned seeing me with a man near a coffee shop in our neighborhood. I listened to all of this, and then I asked, "And do you believe this?" He said, "I believe you when you say it is not true, but I also don't understand why so many people would say the same thing if there was nothing." That hurt. I am not going to pretend it did not, because the man they were describing did not exist. There was no reconnection with someone from my past. There was no coffee shop meeting. I work from home. Most of my afternoons are spent at my desk or running errands or doing things around the house. My life was not exciting enough for the story they were telling about me, but I understood, even in my hurt, that Amit was being put in an impossible position. When your own family members, people you have known your whole life, tell you something again and again, it plants seeds. Even if you are trying not to water them, they start to grow. I told him I was going to find out where this was coming from. He asked me not to make a scene. I told him I was not planning to make a scene. I was planning to find the truth. I started by calling Rajan. He was the first one who had said something to Amit, so I figured he might know where it had started. I kept the conversation casual. I asked him how he was doing, made some small talk, and then gently asked him what exactly he had heard and who he had heard it from. Rajan was uncomfortable. I could hear it in his voice. He said he did not remember exactly, that it was just something that had come up in conversation. Rajan, I said, this is affecting my marriage. I need you to think harder. There was a pause. Then he said he thought he had heard it from his wife, Sunita first, and that Sunita had been talking to Ritu around that time. I thanked him and ended the call. So it was Sunita who had told Rajan, and Sunita had gotten it from Ritu. I sat with that for a while before I did anything else. Then I called Sunita. She was harder to crack. She was polite but careful. She said she did not want to get involved, that she had just shared what she had heard. When I asked her what exactly Ritu had told her, she said that Ritu had mentioned seeing me herself, that Ritu had said she had spotted me one afternoon at a coffee place near our building, sitting with a man who was not Amit, and that it had not looked like a casual meeting. I asked Sunita which coffee place. She described it. I knew the one. It was a small place about 7 minutes from our flat. I thought back carefully. I had been to that coffee shop a few times, once with my colleague Deepa, who I sometimes met in person when we needed to work on something together. Once with my neighbor Sushant's wife when she had invited me for a quick catch-up. Once with my brother, who had visited us for a few days last year. Any of those could have been twisted into something else by someone who wanted to twist it. I asked Sunita when Ritu had said she saw this. She thought about it and said it was sometime around 8 or 9 months ago. 8 or 9 months ago. I tried to remember. Around that time my brother had visited. He had stayed with us for about a week. We had gone to that coffee shop one afternoon, just the two of us, because Amit was at work and my brother wanted to get out of the flat for a bit. Someone had seen me with my own brother and turned it into an affair. Or, more accurately, someone had decided to use that moment and tell everyone it was something else entirely. The more I sat with this, the more certain I became. Ritu had seen me with my brother. She knew who he was. She had met him before at family functions. She knew that what she was telling people was a lie. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not someone jumping to the wrong conclusion. This was deliberate, and the question that kept circling in my mind was the one I did not yet have an answer to. Why? What had I ever done to Ritu that would make her want to do this to me? What was she hoping to gain from watching my marriage fall apart? I did not know yet, but I was going to find out. I had already connected enough dots to know that Ritu was the one spreading these stories. I had Sunita's account. I had the timeline. I had the fact that the man I had supposedly been meeting was my own brother, someone Ritu had met before and would have recognized. But knowing something and being able to prove it to others are two very different things. If I went to Amit right then and said Ritu is lying about me, the first thing that would happen is it would look like I was trying to shift blame. His family would close ranks around her. I would look defensive, and the rumor would keep living because I had not killed it at the root. I had just pointed a finger. I needed more. I needed something that would make the truth impossible to argue with. So I did something I had never done before in 12 years of being part of this family. I started documenting everything. I went back through my phone and found the messages between me and my brother from around that time. We had texted about meeting at that coffee shop. The messages were still there, the whole conversation, including him saying he was bored at home and asking if I wanted to go out for an hour. I saved those screenshots. I also found a photo. My brother had taken a selfie of the two of us sitting at that coffee shop that day and sent it to our mother on the family group. It was still in the chat. Our mother had replied with a heart emoji. The photo was time-stamped. The location was visible in the background. My brother's face was clearly in it. I saved that too. Then I thought about what else I might have. I went through old photos on my phone from around that period. I found pictures of my brother at our flat during his visit. Pictures of all three of us, me, Amit, and my brother, eating dinner together. Amit was in those photos, smiling, relaxed, because he had been home that evening and we had all cooked together. The visit had not been a secret. Amit had known my brother was there. The whole thing had been completely open. I organized all of this quietly. I did not tell Amit what I was doing yet. I wanted to have everything in order before I brought him into it, because I needed him to see the full picture at once rather than receive it in pieces that could be questioned one by one. While I was doing this, something else happened that pushed things further. Amit's mother called him. I was in the next room and I could hear parts of the conversation. I was not trying to listen, but the flat is small and his voice carries. I heard her say something about giving a marriage time to recover. I heard her use the word patience. I heard Amit say, quietly but firmly, that he did not want to have this conversation right now. When he came out, he looked drained. I asked him what she had said. He sat down on the sofa and looked at the floor for a moment before answering. She is worried. She has heard more things. She thinks maybe we should consider going to see someone. A counselor, to work through things. What things? I said. What things do we need to work through, Amit? Nothing happened. I know that is what you are saying. Is that what you believe? He looked at me. There was something exhausted in his face. Not anger, just exhaustion. I don't know what to believe anymore, Nisha. I am hearing it from so many sides. My mother, my cousins, Rajan. Everyone seems to have heard something. Everyone has heard the same lie, I said, passed around by the same person. He asked me what I meant. I told him I was not ready to explain everything yet. I asked him to give me a few more days. I told him that I was going to show him exactly what had happened and exactly where this had all come from, and that when I did, I needed him to be open to seeing it clearly. He said he would try. Those few days were hard. The distance between us felt physical. We slept in the same bed, but it felt like there was space there that had not existed before. We talked about ordinary things, groceries, a bill that needed to be paid, something he had seen in the news. We avoided the things sitting in the middle of everything. I kept working on what I was putting together. I called my brother. I explained the situation to him, not all of it, but enough. I told him that someone had seen us at that coffee shop and had told people it was something inappropriate. He was angry when he heard this. He offered to call Amit directly, to explain, to say whatever needed to be said. I told him I might take him up on that, but not yet. I wanted him on standby. Then I did something harder. I tried to understand Ritu, not to excuse her, but because I knew that when I confronted this, people would ask why. Why would she do this? And if I could not answer that, some people would use the lack of a clear motive as a reason to doubt the whole thing. I thought back over the years. I tried to remember every moment where I had seen something in Ritu that felt off, and when I really sat with it, I realized the signs had been there for a long time. I had just not put them together. Ritu had always had a difficult relationship with the idea of Amit being close to me. In the early years of our marriage, she would sometimes call him on evenings when we had plans, and the calls would go on long enough that the plans got disrupted. She would ask Amit to come with her to things, events, or errands or visits in ways that did not naturally include me. Small things, things I had brushed off as her still adjusting to the fact that her brother had a wife now. But there was something else I remembered more recently. About a year before all of this started, there had been a conversation in the family about property. Amit's parents owned a flat that they had been renting out for years. There had been some discussion about what would eventually happen to it. I had not been deeply involved in that conversation. But I remembered that at some point, the general understanding in the family was that it would likely go to Amit as the elder child. Ritu had not been happy about that. She had said some things about it being unfair. There had been a brief tension in the family that eventually seemed to settle. No one had talked about it openly after that, but I started to wonder if Amit and I separated, or if our marriage became unstable enough that Amit pulled away from me and became more dependent on his family again. What would that do to the family dynamics? Who would benefit from me being pushed out? I did not want to assume too much, but the pieces were pointing somewhere. And then, almost by accident, I found the thing that confirmed it. I was looking through an old family group chat, scrolling back through months of messages while looking for that photo of me and my brother, and I came across something I had not noticed when it was first sent. It was a voice note, Ritu had sent it to the group about 10 months ago, during a festive occasion, and at the time I had listened to it and heard only the surface of what she was saying. I listened to it again now, more carefully. It was a message about family unity and staying close and not letting outside influences come between people. It sounded nice on the surface, but listening to it now, knowing what I knew, I could hear something underneath it. She said, in the middle of the message, that she hoped everyone in the family would always be honest with each other, and that secrets had a way of coming out eventually. She had sent this message to the whole family group 10 months ago. Right around the time, I now realized that she had likely started spreading the rumors. She had planted the idea in everyone's minds before the story even began. She had primed them to believe that there were secrets, that honesty was needed, so that when the story came, it landed in soil she had already prepared. I sat very still for a long time after I realized that. Then I called my brother and told him I was ready. Not because Sundays are special, but because that was when the family usually gathered at Amit's parents' house. It was a regular thing, lunch together, sometimes just the immediate family, sometimes a few cousins or aunts as well. I knew Ritu would be there. I knew enough of the people who had heard the rumors would be there too. I told Amit the night before that I needed him to trust me for one more day. I told him that the next afternoon, at his parents' house, I was going to show him and his family exactly what had been happening and where it had come from. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "Okay." I did not sleep well that night. I lay there in the dark, going over everything in my head. Not because I was unsure of what I had found. I was sure, but because I knew that what I was about to do was going to change things permanently, and not just for me and Amit. It was going to change things for his whole family, for Ritu, and I felt the weight of that, even as I felt the clarity of knowing I had no other choice. The next morning I sent my brother a message. He confirmed he was ready. He was going to be available by phone if needed. We drove to Amit's parents' house in the early afternoon. It was a normal-looking Sunday. His mother had made food. His father was watching something on television. Ritu was already there, sitting with her phone, relaxed. A couple of cousins were there too, including Rajan and his wife Sunita. I sat through lunch quietly. I ate. I answered questions when people spoke to me. I let the afternoon settle into its normal rhythm. Then, after the plates were cleared and people were sitting with their tea, I said I needed to say something. The room shifted. That particular kind of silence came over it that happens when everyone suddenly understands something is about to happen. Amit was sitting next to me. I looked at him briefly, and then I looked at the room. I said, "For the past several months, a story has been going around this family about me, that I have been seeing another man while Amit is at work. I want to address that today, in front of everyone, because it has affected my marriage, and it has affected how this family sees me, and I am not willing to let it continue." No one spoke. Ritu had looked up from her phone. I took out my phone, and I opened the photo, the one my brother had taken at the coffee shop. Me and him, clearly together, clearly family, the timestamp visible, the location visible in the background. I passed the phone to Amit first. He looked at it. Something moved across his face. "This is the meeting that was described as an affair," I said. "This is my brother. You have all met him. He visited us last year and stayed at our flat for a week. Amit was home for dinner with us multiple times that week. This photo was sent to our family group by my brother himself, to our mother, on the same day it was taken." I took the phone back and opened the message thread between me and my brother, the one where we had planned to go to that coffee shop. I passed it around. Then I pulled up the family group chat and found the photo there, the one sent to our mother, still sitting in the chat from months ago. Rajan looked uncomfortable. Sunita was very still. I looked at Ritu. "You saw me at that coffee shop," I said. "You saw me with my brother. You know who he is, and you told Sunita it was someone else. You described it as something it was not. And then that story moved through this family until it reached Amit, and then it kept moving." Ritu said nothing at first. She looked at the photo when I held it toward her. Her expression did not change in any dramatic way. She just looked at it and then looked away. "I don't know why you would describe a photo like that differently to people," she said. Her voice was calm. "I saw you with a man. I didn't know for sure who it was." "You have met my brother," I said. "You were at our wedding. He was there. People change. I wasn't sure." "Ritu, It was Amit who said her name. His voice was quiet, but it had something in it I had not heard before. You were not sure, so you told people she was having an affair? She looked at him. I was worried about you. I just mentioned what I saw. You mentioned it to Sunita, I said. Sunita told Rajan. Rajan told Amit. It went to your parents. It went to your aunt. It went to cousins I have barely spoken to. That is not mentioning something. That is a campaign. The word campaign landed in the room. Amit's father, who had been quiet the whole time, set down his cup and looked at Ritu. His mother had her hands in her lap and was looking at the floor. Then I said the other part. I told them about the voice note Ritu had sent to the family group 10 months ago. I played it out loud. Everyone listened to it again. And this time, with everything else sitting on the table, the message sounded different. You could hear the groundwork being laid, the seeds being planted before the story was even ready. The room was very quiet when it ended. I said, I also want everyone to know that if there is any remaining doubt about who my brother is and what that meeting was, he is available right now to speak to anyone who wants to call him. No one took me up on that. I think by that point, it was clear enough. What followed was not a dramatic confrontation with shouting and tears. It was actually quieter than I expected. Ritu did not confess to anything directly. She said she had only been trying to protect her brother. She said she had genuine concerns. She said things that were careful and did not quite admit what she had done while also not being able to deny it given everything I had shown. But the family had heard it all. They had seen the photo. They had heard the voice note. They had watched Rajan and Sunita sit there, unable to say much in her defense. They had seen Amit's face when he looked at the evidence. Amit's mother apologized to me. She did it quietly, not in a big speech. She came and sat next to me and said she was sorry for doubting me and sorry that I had gone through this. I believed her. Amit's father said very little, but he looked at Ritu with an expression I do not think I will forget. Not anger exactly. Disappointment, but deeper than disappointment. The kind of look a parent gives when they realize they do not fully know their child. Ritu left early that afternoon. She did not say much on her way out. On the drive home, Amit and I did not talk for a while. There was a lot sitting between us. Not bad things exactly, but heavy things that needed to move slowly. When we got home, he said, I am sorry I doubted you. I told him I understood why he had. I told him that I was not going to pretend it had not hurt, because it had. But I also told him that I knew he had been put in an impossible position and that the person responsible for that was not him. We talked for a long time that night, about what had happened, about how the doubt had felt from his side, about how the isolation had felt from mine, about what we wanted to do now. It took time after that, not weeks, months. The marriage did not snap back into place just because the truth had come out. There were still moments of soreness, still conversations that needed to happen, but we worked through them. We chose to work through them. As for Ritu, things between her and the family changed. She and Amit did not have a clean resolution. They spoke eventually, but it was different. Some things cannot go back to exactly how they were, and I think both of them understood that. I never found out if the property issue was truly behind what she did. She never admitted to any of it clearly, but I stopped needing her to. What I needed was for my marriage to survive, and for my name to be cleared, and both of those things happened. 12 years of building something does not disappear because someone tried to tear it down. Amit and I are still together. We are not perfect. No marriage is, but we are honest with each other now in ways we were not before this happened. We talk more. We check in more. In a strange way, going through the worst of it made us more careful with each other. That is the part no one tells you about surviving something like this. The damage is real, but sometimes what grows in the space where the damage was is stronger than what was there before.